Welcome back, everyone. Well, looks like the political season is just starting to warm up. In Saratoga Springs, a couple of people have announced their candidacy for mayor. And one really stood out immediately to us because it's someone that we know here at Look Media Resource, and that's Ron Kim. Ron Kim is a lawyer and grew up in Glens Falls, real part of the community. And most recently, this past fall, I interviewed Ron because he was part of the debate about what form of government we should have in Saratoga Springs. So Ron announced last week that he's going to run for mayor, and I asked him to join us today. We got a lot to cover. So first, welcome back, Ron.
Thanks for having me, Jesse.
Oh, it's
good to see you again.
Great. Yeah, it's good to see you too. So you survived the winter okay?
Yes, wasn't bad actually but it's great to see spring.
Yes, it certainly is. There is a sort of a renewed spirit on any number of fronts.
Oh, yeah.
I thought, Ron, I looked at the press release from the announcement, and I was very impressed with a number of things. And I've got some bullet points here, and I want to hit some of these. Let's start off with some of the things that are written right into your platform there, of things that you want to accomplish if you're elected mayor. Build the East Side Public Safety Station. Now, I assume that's an EMS fire station?
Yes.
Yeah, that's been a question for about a decade, as far as I know.
In 2005, when I took office, I walked in the Commissioner of Public Safety office, and Fire Chief showed me a map, and he said, "We can't get there, and we need another station." And we fought pretty hard during the 2 years I was there. Well, the 2 terms I was there, but unfortunately, we weren't able to do it. One of the factors, which I won't let go this time, is we went around to various federal authorities, state authorities, to see if we could get funding for the construction, and they said that money had dried up. So we're not going to miss that opportunity again. And I'm glad to see that NYRA recognizes we need this, and they're going to help us with a partnership, and we need to move forward. And so it'll be a top priority if I elected to mayor.
Yeah, it certainly seems to make a lot of sense, Ron. Hey, one other thing, a bit of a hot topic, by the way. You hear a lot said in this era of sort of a reawakening again of social justice all across the country. You know, how would we reimagine our police forces so that there's more accountability and more transparency? The 800-pound gorilla in the room there is the immediate pushback that, oh, they're going to take away our police. They're going to take away our protection. That's not at all what that means. And you stated it really well in your press release. Give us a sense of where you stand on that.
So having worked with the police for 4 years in this city, I know the Saratoga Springs Police Department, not only as a department, but also individuals. And I'm going to say right off the bat, they're not all bad. But I'm also going to say that every profession has accountability, every profession has transparency, and we need to do that, and we need to do that today. It starts with a civilian review board, and a number of the other recommendations that the police reform task force reviewed and studied, and then gave to the current city council need to be implemented. I'm not going to shy away from that implementation. I'm going to work with whoever the commissioner of public safety is, but we really need to do these steps. And taking these steps doesn't mean we have bad police officers. What it means is we can all do better. And that's what I hope to both be able to show the community and our police department, that this isn't a threat to them. This is actually what's going to help our community come together. And so I'm hoping that through this process, we actually become more united. Right now, it's a very divisive conversation. Doesn't need to be. It needs to be more united, because we're all about the same thing, making sure that Saratoga Springs is a safe, great place to live, but where also everyone feels safe, everyone feels like they got an equal shot to justice. And those are the things that make a community great. And that's what I'll do if I'm elected.
Yeah, that's really well said, Ron.
Thanks.
Again, just to those that feel that it's a threat that we're defunding our police and it's going to hurt our protection. Actually, I think people would be very impressed to know about the community outreach that the police department is already making. This starts with a conversation, and I think it's very bold of you, and I think it's well stated that this should be addressed. And I'm glad to see that on your platform. You were talking about the city. Everyone is rushing to reopen. Thankfully, over the last couple of months, enormous effort to make certain that as many Americans who want to be vaccinated can be vaccinated. And so there's a lot of talk about reopening. What kind of sense do you have in terms of maybe a timetable on something like that, or what protocols we should follow to make certain that we do actually get this damn pandemic behind us?
Well, we have to be informed by science, good science, listen to the experts. They're the ones who can tell us what steps can be done, when they can be done, et cetera. I think the mayor's office needs to play a role, though, in the reopening of Saratoga Springs, in not only being safe, but also making sure that our businesses quickly are able to do that and become essentially gain back the losses that have been so hurtful to the business community in the last year. So I think the mayor should be involved in reopenings, should be sort of there to celebrate the reopening of every single business on Broadway and throughout the community, and really take an initiative to be out there in the community. And that's something that I'll do. I hope that we do that now, because some of that will happen even before the election and before any new mayor takes office. But in the end, we've got to follow the science, but we've also got to make sure that we celebrate the fact that we're back in a safe manner. And then beyond that, I want to use the mayor's office to make sure that we have a master plan of how we deal with these kinds of situations. You're never going to be able to predict everything. You're never going to be able to sort of know what's around the corner, but we can have sort of the community look at what happened here, what were the best practices, and the kinds of things that we need to deploy if this ever happens again in our lifetime. And I think we ought to learn from that. And that's another initiative that I'll move forward if I'm the mayor, to really look at long-term strategies for the community and the public so that we can deal with something like this more effectively.
Yeah, well said, Ron. Hey, anytime somebody runs for office, it immediately turns into, we want to review our contracts, and we want to, they move into that fiscal side of how the city has been operated, or how they'd like to see it operated. To our viewers, Ron is a lawyer and specializes in consumer protection, so he knows a lot about this topic of contracts and how people are protected. What's your sort of view of the way city contracts should be handled or reviewed?
Well, I think we need a top to bottom review of how we both bid contracts out and then how we award them from this perspective. We award a contract, and then very often there's no follow-up to make sure that principles like inclusion, diversity, good union practices, or at least prevailing wage practices, are in place and enforced. That's the other critical part. And, the city as a contractor is a major player in the local economic development, all the rest of stuff. We need to stand for those principles. So one of the other things that I want to do if I'm elected mayor is take a top-down review of how we award and how we also oversight those contracts once they're deployed, so that we make sure that we're doing those kinds of making sure that those practices are continued. Here's the other thing. I'm also we need a carbon neutral Saratoga Springs by 2030. We need to take great advances. So part of that city contract study is going to look at how do we include those principles, those green principles, into the awarding of contracts. Because again, these are ways that the city, not only through policy, but in how they spend their money, can basically create a green future for us all. So that's the purpose of looking at these contracts, is to really make sure that we're bidding, awarding, and enforcing the right way.
Part of that dovetails. That was actually my next question to you. Is we looks like on a national level, but we're going to have a big infrastructure plan in place. I would imagine that one of the priorities for you would be to make certain that we're part of that, to support the initiatives that you want.
This is an opportunity of a generation. I believe the federal government passes an infrastructure bill which emphasizes green technology, which emphasizes green practices, Saratoga Springs needs to be there to make sure that we get a fair share of that, because just things like, if you look to the future of a carbon neutral Saratoga Springs, that means patrol cars have to cannot be relying on fossil fuels. But that also means that there's an infrastructure in the city to charge or use alternative fuels, et cetera. That infrastructure has to be built today if we're going to go into the future. That's one of the priorities that I'll have, is to really look at how we harness what's happening in the federal and state level and get those resources so that we can address these. Because again, our future is tied to the idea of carbon neutrality, and the sooner we get there, the better. So I'm on that specific point. The city will propose, if I'm mayor, a master plan for carbon neutrality. We'll do that, and that will basically touch all aspects of how the city impacts the city government impacts the city. So I'm really looking forward to that opportunity, because it dovetails so many things that we can do effectively in the next few years that I think people will pay dividends for generations, really.
It's interesting, Ron. You reveal so much about yourself in your answers, by the way. It's very refreshing. You have a lot of conviction, and I really want to applaud you for that.
Thank you.
Hey, let's take the candidate hat off. I got one last question for you.
Sure.
Anybody who runs for public office has to be very careful what they wish for. Why are you running? On a personal level.
Yeah. I think it's important on every level of government, because of what's happened in the last 4 years, that we have people who believe in democracy, that believe in our system of government. And while I look forward to a full debate with all the candidates who are running for mayor, I'm not sure that we have candidates that all believe that, or at least their parties do. And so when the opportunity to run for this office and make sure that democracy is part and continues to be part of our governing system at all levels, I felt like I had to do it. So we can't shy away from what happened on January 6th. We can't forget it. And so that spurred me on to do this. And I know a lot of people would say, well, what happens in DC is so far distant, but it really isn't, because government is at every levels has to be a good democracy. So I look forward to a good debate. I look forward to working with people, but I also want to make it clear that I stand for democracy. I stand for what the voters believe in, and it's so important that we do that at every level of government.
Yeah, I've got it, Ron. Again, it's Ron Kim, who's running for mayor in Saratoga. Democratic endorsement, longtime resident, born in Glens Falls, lawyer with esteemed career, and decided for whatever reason to run for mayor for Saratoga, which I really applaud you for, by the way. Hey, so Ron, you're welcome anytime. Any updates on the campaign, you give us a call. Let us know. We can update our viewers. And best of luck to you. And just a reminder to anyone out there, if you are running for office, you can consider Look Media Resource a platform. I'd be glad to talk to you and give you the forum to get your voice heard so the voters can make an informed decision. Again, Ron, thank you. You stay safe, my friend, and I'll
too.
talk to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to see you.